Well, thanks so much for joining us for this edition of Making Sense, where we talk about our finances, our financial institutions, the current trends, and what's on the horizon as well. We're joined by Alex Lutke, Alex from Forest Area Federal Credit Union. Thanks so much for joining us, Alex. Today, we are talking about something that right off the bat, I'm going to admit is out of my wheelhouse, but you're going to help me understand it. So I appreciate that. We're talking technology and banking and finance. You up for that, Alex?
Yeah, we'll see what we can do here.
Okay, we'll figure it out together, right? Because if I understand it, it probably means most of the people that are watching understand it. So that's the level we're going for. All right, Alex, let's start. So, how are banks and credit unions really adapting technology in order to serve us as well as stay competitive?
Yeah, it's a good question, Mark. And we're definitely in a unique time when it comes to
Mhm.
technology. Things are moving at a much rapid pace, even beyond the financial industry. Technology in general is moving very quickly. So financial institutions are definitely trying to find ways to keep up with that and have a good grasp on what that looks like. As we continue to evolve, fraudsters continue to evolve as well. So that's one of the driving forces behind technology in general is how do we find ways to get ahead of the fraudsters. So one of the biggest ways that we are working in through technology is in the card world because there's so much fraud when it comes to plastic cards, whether that's your debit card or credit card. And so trying to find ways to better enhance that. And some of those things that we've been implementing is contactless cards, which is not a new feature, but certainly something new to us. But the other thing that financial institutions are moving into is the Apple Pay, the Google Pay, the Samsung Pay. So there's a lot of technology behind that because it adds more layers of security if you have to use those on your phone. It adds layers of security, so there's less fraudulent transactions in that. The other ways that we're doing it is there's a lot of technology-based systems that help go through transactions to check out fraud transactions, whether that's unusual activity for individuals, unusual activity for a membership or for a community, the different things that we can look at on the back end to see are these for real? Like, are these things really happening? Or are they fraudsters that are trying to do things? The other types of technology that you're seeing is just better ways to serve members, whether that's through online banking, whether that's through service within the lobbies, finding ways to get people directly to experts, finding different ways to do that. So that's just a few examples of things that are happening technology-wise within financial institutions that we're trying to keep up with.
A couple things pop there that I'd like to drill down on if we
Yeah.
could. Okay, so whenever we talk about technology, so often in various fields, technology replaces people. And when we deal with our financial institutions, sometimes we want it, sometimes we don't want to deal with people. And sometimes we want to deal with people. So is technology replacing human interactions in our financial institutions?
I love that question. It's a question we get from our members all the time. If I'm doing this, is it replacing someone? The answer is no. As a
Okay.
matter of fact, what we've actually done is as we've implemented more technology, we've actually increased our people. And the reason why is because there's more things that they have to do. The jobs just look different to where before it was a lot of just routine things that our employees were doing. Now they're doing a much broader spectrum of things to be able to help our members even more. And so that way, when you're calling in and we're able to help you on that first call versus having to go through multiple layers of, oh, I need to talk to this person, this person, this person. So the short answer to your question is absolutely not. And we're actually seeing the reverse. And one example of that is we have a system that we call Evergreen. And what that is it's a system where members can call us on their phone in a face-to-face interaction or even in our lobbies, and they can talk directly to a customer service rep over that face-to-face interaction. Well, in order to be able to accomplish that, we have to have people on the back end that can answer those calls. So we've shifted people around and put them in different roles to be more efficient.
All right. As somebody who, complete disclosure here, don't know exactly how AI works.
Yeah.
Okay. But I know that it's important and it's popping up everywhere. AI certainly has some pluses and some minuses. How's it being used to improve like customer service as well as increase our safety? You made reference to that.
Yeah. So AI is a pretty big buzzword these
Right.
days. And so a lot of people throw AI and it couldn't be considered AI, but it's more like if then statements. If this happens, then this needs to happen. I
Okay.
mentioned earlier about the debit cards and the fraud that's on the back end of those. AI can be considered the system that's being used to kind of work through all of those transactions. There's no way we're going to have someone be able to look at hundreds of thousands of transactions every day to determine whether something's fraudulent or not. So we have a back end system that goes through all of those transactions and determines whether this is unusual for an individual or whether it's not, and it's scored. There's different scorings to
Okay.
determine whether a transaction could be fraudulent or not. As a matter of fact, we just got an email this last week of a member who reached out and thanked us because they were going to use their debit card somewhere and it got declined. They're like, well, what's going on? But it was because someone actually tried to use their debit card and it was stopped because of that AI system that we utilize, and it was shut down and those transactions did not go through. And so their debit card didn't work after that. They just called us, they got a new one. But because of the system that we utilize for that, it helps in those scenarios. The other thing that financial institutions are doing from an AI perspective is really trying to understand the membership. What do the members want? What do they need? What type of transactions are they utilizing? And can we better serve the members in that way? Yeah, from a marketing perspective as well as just helping our membership out and giving them what they need.
So financial institutions are using the AI to help with some of those data analytics to better serve. There is a buzzword around AI, and there's an awful lot that some people are very concerned or worried about. But in this case, it may actually help protect our money, right?
Yeah, that's the biggest reason that why we're utilizing it is from a protection of our membership.
Yeah.
The concerns around AI from well, they've got my data, they're going to utilize it in ways that I don't want them to. There's certainly concern around that, but financial institutions are not about that. They're about finding ways to help serve the members as well as keep them protected. So that's the biggest reason we're utilizing it.
And if the AI can actually help protect us from the people who are interested in that stuff that probably don't have good intentions, that may be a good trade-off. All right, so when we're talking technology and banking, if you're my age, a mobile app is technology. If you're much younger, that's old technology. But to me, it's still kind of like, well, that's pretty cool that I can do this. So what are some of the pros and cons of using our mobile banking apps that have evolved so much recently?
Yeah, it's a good question. So some of the bigger banks have really been utilizing their mobile apps in a much different way. And so what they've been doing is there's a lot of budget tools that they've got within their mobile apps. They've got credit scores in there, so you can kind of get a sense of where your credit score is. And then just being able to, like I said, the budget, being able to build that out in a way that they can kind of go in there and just see what's going on. The other thing is there's a lot of different layers of protection within the mobile app now. I know early on there was concerns of, well, I don't want to put my stuff out on the internet. Like anyone could be able to get the access to it. There's a lot of layers in there. Within your phone, when you try and get on your mobile app, you can log in with facial recognition or with a thumbprint. So anyone who doesn't have that on their mobile app right now, I would definitely suggest getting on there and being able to do that, because then someone needs to have your face to be able to log in to your mobile app. What we're seeing is the biggest fraud when it comes to an app is someone giving their login information away to someone. We're not seeing anyone breaking in without that actually happening. So those different layers that have been put in place have definitely been helpful in alleviating any of those concerns. But there's so much that can happen on the mobile app, whether that's applying for a loan, just checking out your transactions, making transfers. There's ways that you can do transfers to other financial institutions, making loan payments, all those things. There's just a very simple technology nowadays. But there's a lot of different layers of protection in there to keep people safe.
Alec, it just strikes me. I remember, this is dating me, but I remember when bank by phone, like landline phone, when you had to punch in the numbers and everything. And that was the only way that you could really transfer funds or do things like that after banking hours. It is amazing how far that technology has advanced. And I imagine that as a financial institution, as well as customers of a financial institution, to have that freedom and flexibility to do so much on your phone, via a mobile app right now, we take it for granted, but that's significant.
It absolutely is. And it's funny you bring that up, Mark, because in my 8 years of being at Forest Area, I've actually seen more fraud in the phone banking than I have the actual
Really?
online banking. Yeah, there's fraudsters have found a way to kind of it's calmed down now, but there was a time when they found a way to kind of break into that and find ways to manipulate the system to get what they need because it was
Wow.
all they just needed certain numbers to be able to get into that.
Right.
Where with
And
your getting in your online app, you need your face, you need your thumbprint, you need different things. It was just easier to do that on the phone banking. So that's funny that
wow.
you mentioned that. So yeah.
Well, more kudos to the advancements in technology. All right. Biometric authentication. Okay. First of all, before I even ask you the question, tell me what that is.
Yeah, so we just touched on that a little bit. So what that means is it's a fancy way of saying using personal things to be able to log in. Whether
Okay.
that's for financial institutions specifically, it's your face, it's your thumbprint. You can get into deeper things where using DNA, things like that. We don't use any of that, but those just biometric, that's what that refers to.
Okay.
So being able to have that to log into your phones and things like that is where those advancements have been.
What I'm gonna put you on the spot here.
Mhm.
So we can do so many things now with our mobile apps, thanks to the technology. Apply for loans, credit scores, everything like that. Will this continue to evolve? Will we continue to add features like that as financial institutions like yours see what customers are trying to do or wanting to do via remote or online? Are we going to continue to see these apps evolve and become um, more of a buffet of banking, if you will, offer a little bit of everything for us to do?
Yeah, there's no way it'll slow down. I mean, that's the
Okay,
means in which the majority of the individuals want to do transactions.
wow. Mhm.
If we go back and look at our transactions on our online banking versus our transactions in our branches, it's significantly more on the online banking. So it's going to continue to evolve as people want more new things, as people get more comfortable with the online environment. There's going to be a lot of things that are going to be happening there. I mean, we're looking at advancements with the budget tools, with all those different things within our mobile app. It's got to evolve. It's got to be able to keep up because the chimes of the world are doing things much different than what we are. So we got to find ways to evolve and keep up with them.
Well, let's talk about Chime and Wise uh, versus, I don't want to pitch you against them, but
Mhm.
comparison to traditional banks and credit unions. What are the differences between those?
Yeah. So there's a place for everyone in the market, right? There's a place for the chimes. There's a place for what we do as a credit union and the banks. What the chimes of the world are doing is different and it's unique. They went into a platform trying to just use payments as a way to get revenue. And so what they did was when they use their people use their debit cards, they get a kickback on that to be able to pay that. And so they've gone into that world and they've been expanding, but they are fully remote. You're not it's if you ever try to call them, it's going to be very difficult to actually get to a person because that's their model. Their model is for everything to be technology based. So you can chat with them probably online, but it can be difficult to actually get to a person. The credit unions and the banks of the world, they tend to have more of the customer service. If you have questions that you want to ask about your financial future or debit disputes or anything like that, we're going to be able to sit down and have that conversation with you. On that note, though, we may be behind them when it comes to the actual technology piece. Now we're trying to keep up. We're doing things to make sure that we're there with them, but that is their model. They have the resources available to pour into that. We're never going to be that because we want to make sure that we're part of our community because we're community based. Banks very similar; they want to be community based. So there's just a difference. There's a place for everyone in the market. Venmo, I mean, that's another thing that's very helpful in the market where you can transfer between people and you don't need to have account numbers or anything like that. It just flows back and forth. So it's just different.
You make an interesting point there, where in this time where how we bank is evolving and changing and adapting all this technology, there is still a place, a need, and a desire amongst a lot of customers to be able to actually go into a building, open a door, and talk to their community, their neighbor down the street who happens to work at the bank to get that. There still is, and most likely always will be, a need and a place for that.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a time a number of years ago where there was a statement that branches are dead. That's what people would say. And it's been interesting that it simply hasn't come to fruition. The branches just now look different than what they did 10 years ago. The footprints can be much smaller, so it's not as expensive to function in it.
Sure.
There's probably less employees actually in the branch because they're going to the back end to be able to help with all those other technology pieces to help function. I mean, you have things like interactive teller machines and drive-throughs, so you can have longer hours in the drive-throughs, so you can service people from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., things like that to help service more. Having things in the branch, like I had mentioned, being able to get directly to financial experts, whether you're looking for mortgages or financial advisors, you can go into a branch and you can talk directly to those individuals for us. So the branch just looks different than it ever used to in the past. And it's going to, in my opinion, it's going to continue to be a thing.
Is it important that for people that aren't tech savvy or just really don't like that? I mean, I'm sure that there are customers that are like, I just want to do this technologically cutting edge. And you will always have customers that are like, I don't want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So as a brick and mortar, an actual financial institution is finding that sweet spot, but having to be able to offer both to the customers out there.
Yeah, we have to, as an organization, we have to be able to provide both the brick and mortar as well as the technology. And that kind of puts us in an interesting position because we have to fight two battles, right?
Right.
I don't mean that in a weird way, but like we have to be able to serve both the people that want to walk into our branch as well as the people that want the technology. And the community that we serve, we want to be able to provide that to them because that's what they want. That's what they need. We want to be able to have a face in front of them when they need it.
So when we do, now that so much of what we do financially is through our phones, through a mobile app, through that, are financial institutions taking steps to make sure that our data remains our data and private?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the short answer, is absolutely. But there are a number of things that we do to make sure that that data is secure. Whether that's we get audited and exams based on IT, so they come in to make sure that there's no one that can break into our systems. We have penetration testing, and what that means is it's literally people trying to break in, the good guys trying to break in and see if there's doors that we don't have closed. And they give us reports like these are the things that we need to take care of. And we go through and we clean that up. We do that all the time. We have people internally that are doing the same thing to make sure that those doors are closed. We're stepping up the game when it comes to third parties, making sure that data, it's not getting into the wrong hands, things like that. Making sure that we are on top of our game because our members' data, any financial institution, the members' data is the most important thing because if that information gets out, that's reputation that's blown. And so we have to make sure that that's held very secure. And so there are a number of things that we're doing, whether that's if we go to the cloud, what do the servers look like? If we keep things in-house, what do those servers look like? And just making sure that we have things buttoned up.
First of all, I think it's fascinating that financial institutions have employees that are basically trying to figure out the best way to steal from that financial. Right. Yeah, that's
to find ways to get the data. Yeah,
that's a fascinating job that somebody gets to do that for a living. And that's one other thing that our local financial institutions have to be good at. I mean, compared to Chime, where they don't have to do brick and mortar. You guys have to be good online. You have to be good brick and mortar, and you have to be better at security than people who spend every day, all the time, trying to get the scam artists out there. So you have to be good on many different fronts.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah. If we lower our guard in one area, we could really be vulnerable. So we have to make sure that we've got our guards up in every area. Because the fraudsters don't slow down. I mean, they're going to continue to find new ways, innovative ways to get in, to find data, to find whatever they can to get a penny.
How much do when it comes to technology and mobile apps and things like that, how much of it is driven by what consumers want versus what technology is capable of?
That's a great question. It starts with what the members want.
Okay.
For the services that they need to be provided with, it starts there. They say, hey, we're looking for this. Well, let's figure out what that looks like. And then we really try and dive in to say, okay, do we have the capability of being able to do that? And if we don't, we did what we could. If we do, let's figure out a way to make it happen. So it starts with the member, it starts with that customer, and then it goes into what capabilities do we have on the back end to make it happen.
And again, that's an area where you have to listen to your customers across the board. We want this online. We want this when we walk into the bank, when we had the actual physical financial institution. So again, you have to listen. What do you say to the people who still have concerns about safety and security when it comes to technology with their financial institution? Somebody walks in and says, listen, I would love to be able to do this. I just they're open to the idea. They're not like, no way ever. They're open to the idea, but they just need to be reassured or learn more. Can they come into their financial institution and get a crash course in all of this?
Yeah, absolutely. I number one, I would say I understand the concern because things that we don't understand are scary.
Right.
I totally understand that. But
And it's our money.
yes,
Yeah.
not something to mess around with. 100%. Yeah, but absolutely, we'll be happy to show people, walk them through what it looks like. How do we keep things secure? What safety features they can put in place to secure their own things, so that way the fraudsters don't have the ability to break in. When people are vulnerable, sometimes they give out information they probably shouldn't. But if they have things set up beforehand, then those fraudsters don't have the ability to break in.
And it sounds like in explaining the biometrics and the AI and all the steps being taken, that we may be getting closer to actually having greater security by embracing and utilizing the technology than by not. Is that fair to say?
That's fair to say. Absolutely. Yep.
All right, Alex, anything else you want to add tonight?
I think that covered a good chunk of what technology looks like. There's so much more on the back end that's happening as well, and that's ever changing. We try and keep up with it, try and navigate it the best we can. And any financial institution would say the same thing. I mean, we all do a good job keeping member and customer data secure. But happy to answer any questions that people may have. Come on in. We'll talk you through what that looks like.
Alex, I appreciate your time. Thanks for getting me up to speed on this. I do appreciate it, and we'll see you on our next segment.
Yeah, appreciate you having me on, Mark.
All right, take care.
You too.